All right, hello wine drinking people. Time for more of what I've had to drink yesterday. And we had a lengthy interview with Dominic de Marville, the chef de cave for Veuve Clicquot. So I'm not going to talk too much about Veuve Clicquot and about the interview because you can watch that. It's on this same email here. And Dominic, the youngest chef de cave ever at age 31. And when he walked in the room, I just looked at him. I said, man, I know we've done an event before. And sure enough, 10 years earlier, when he was at GH we did an event at the Grow Room. We had like 60 people out. He did a phenomenal job standing up and speaking in front of those 60 people in a big room. And as he did here at Steak 954, Cy and the rest of the staff did an incredible job. I have to say the food was outstanding. The pairings were really good. And the wines, the champagnes, were fabulous. So we'll get right into the champagnes here that we had. We started out with a little non-vintage Clicquot Rosé. And, well, there's no information on these bottles as to what the blend is or what the vintage is for the base wines. And you know, in Champagne, usually 70-80% of the wine comes from one vintage. So the base wine for this wine, Dominic told us, is from 08. There's 29% reserve wines in the blend, which means you have the better wines from 07, 06, 05, 04, and 93, which were all kept in tanks separately and then put together. They do the blend just before bottling, and this wine's got a really pretty bouquet. It's 55% Pinot Noir, 15% Pinot Meunier, and 30% Chardonnay. As most of the wines are Pinot Noir based, and Dominic described this wine as the sister and the brother. So I don't know what that means, but anyways, it's the sister because of the pretty rosé color, and the brother because, well, it's a little more full-bodied and richer than the Yellow Label, which is so popular today around the world. This is the #1 market in the world for Yellow Label. 22% of all the Yellow Label consumed in the world is consumed here in the United States. And the cheapest place to buy it, you can still find this wine for around $40 in some of the discount stores. That's not what we specialize in, discounting wines. We do have a great price on everything in this line. Well, other than the Yellow Label, we're still somewhat competitive at $51. But the vintage stuff is what we've really promoted, and the Grande, one of my favorite tête de cuvées. This rosé really had a lovely raspberry and strawberry-like fruit to it, and really pretty floral notes, and a Jolly Rancher kind of candy. It definitely had some dosage to this wine, which is the residual sugar in it, but wonderful freshness. It's just a wine you can open up and drink anytime without food. Just a really delicious bottle of champagne. We started the evening off with a 2004 Veuve Clicquot Brut champagne, and this wine, the vintage wines, bigger in style than the Tête de Cuvée, the Grande, but they're looking for this. This is the style that they want. Like I said, a Pinot Noir based champagne, so definitely a little bigger in style, these Veuve Clicquot wines, and a little lower dosage, about 7 grams as opposed to 10 grams in the Yellow Label. So this wine has a really lovely complexity on the nose there, a little almond note to the apple and peach fruit, and a really lovely intensity and length on the finish. This wine went really well with the fluke dish they had with the mushrooms and a light cream sauce with the roasted smoked corn. Really delicious dish, and this wine really stood up to it nicely, as champagne does. This lovely base of acidity to go with a lot of different foods. The 2004 Brut showing excellent on this evening. The Brut Rosé was up next, the 2004, and this is a very good vintage, more of a classic style vintage, and champagne doesn't have quite as much weight in terms of fruit as 2002 did. The last vintage, usually they only do about 3 vintages per decade. The next one will be 2008. This wine had a little bit of a peppery spice to it, the vintage Brut, quite a bit heavier than the non-vintage Brut here, and about 20% of the juice is coming from their own estate vineyards. The rest is from purchased fruit, and that's what is the chef de cave's job, pretty much, to make sure they get the best possible fruit. That's what Dominic's out doing, working with the growers, making sure they're doing the right things in the vineyard. This wine had a lovely dark cherry, kind of black raspberry fruit. Lots of intensity of this wine, a little smokiness as well, some exotic spice. All the Pinot Noir is from Boozy here, from their own vineyards, and some lovely toasty, yeasty flavors also coming through. Lovely, silky, smooth bubbles, and most excellent juice. Just lovely, full-bodied, rich rosé here, the 2004 vintage. All right, next up, the 2004 La Grande Dame, and this wine was served with short ribs, and man, you can serve big champagnes like this with meat, and that's one of the things, like I said before, I love about champagne, its diversity with fruit. The La Grande Dame's first vintage was 1962, and this is only the best of the best, so all Grand Cru. There's no Pinot Meunier in there. Pinot Meunier is a varietal that they use, but unfortunately, it's not allowed Grand Cru status, so 61% Pinot Noir. The rest of the Grand blend is Chardonnay, and really lovely bouquet to this. You get that real lovely extra time this wine spends on the yeast, on entourage, they call it. So lovely almond nutty character, some brioche toasty notes to the nose. Big, but still elegant, not quite as big and bold as the 2004. And like I said, just a lovely long finish and wonderful concentration. That is the difference that Tête de Cuvée has. It's the length of the finish on your palate. This one actually went pretty good with that short rib dish, really delicious. The 2004 La Grande Brut, my wine of the night. I'm sorry, the Grande Rosé. This wine had a lovely rhubarb and strawberry-like fruit. Again, a little more Pinot Noir here, 76%. Some candied red berry fruit, toasty brioche notes. The first vintage of this wine was only 1988, so a relatively recent invention. You know, they made rosé until the 20s, and they stopped until the 80s, and they picked up again with the rosé, and then this La Grande Rosé and the vintage rosé. And I have to say, like I said, this wine just had layers of complexity coming out in it. Unfortunately, the dessert was a little bit too sweet. You know, whenever you're serving champagne with food, there is a little residual sugar in champagne, but you don't want to have dessert-style sweet. That's just too sweet. If you took the rhubarb tart by itself, it was fabulous. It brought the fruit out because of the acidity in the red fruits in the champagne, but once you got into the ice cream, just a little bit too sweet. Most excellent juice, though, rather large in size, but still very elegant. A lovely, pretty floral note showing through on the finish, and lovely length in this wine. That's what we had to drink with Dominic de Marville at Steak 954. I'm your host, Andrew Lamposoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying, remember, always drink the